Good afternoon, everybody. How are we all? Can you all hear me okay? And can you see the Ultimate okay? Sorry about the light shining, not a lot I can do about that. Just have a slurp of my tea. So let's say a few hellos. Hi Deborah, hi Carol, hi Cindy, hi Lorraine, hi Natalia, hi Sue. Made them walk fast again. Let's get back to the beginning. Hi Karen, hope you're okay. Hi Joanne, Kathy, Margaret Jones, hope hubby's doing okay. Hi Marion, hi Karen, hi Hazel, hi Katie, hi Julie, on time for once. You never have to apologise for being late, even if you are, Julie, it's not a problem. Hi Colleen, hi Val, hi Donna, hi Debbie, hi Jean, loud and clear, thank you Katie. All good, thanks Val, thank you Karen. Okay, what's your weather like? I have to say it's quite overcast and miserable here, but gosh, it's quite warm. Treat for you watching the live. Well, good on you, Karen. Hi, Deborah. So yeah, I've got the windows open, so you might hear the birds in the background, but I never complain about listening to birds. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Patricia. Thank you, Lorraine. I'm going to see if I can set my iPad the other way and still see my comments. No. Okay. There we go. That's better. Grey and miserable, but not chilly. No, it's like that here, Karen. Pencil ready. Well done, Carol. I didn't think you would because you said no. But it's really easy, honestly. You know me by now. I don't do difficult. If it's too hard, I give up and I won't do it. Good. Glad he's doing okay, Margaret. Yes, it is nice. It is nice to listen to them. They go a bit mad round about dinner time. They have a bit of a fit. And then all of a sudden it just stops. It's really weird. It's as if they've like, shush, somebody's coming. It's really odd, but it's nice. Right, so before we get started, because I am going to use the Daisy Corner, as I said, and I am making a triple easel card, and I'll show you the one that I've made in a second. But what I wanted to do first, because I promised, somebody asked in the group, and I said I would try and address the issue today. Now, I've got to be honest, I can't say I've ever had a problem. And I'm pretty sure that most of the DT haven't had a problem because nobody's said anything. And for me, that's my indicator. If everything's great, nobody says anything. If there is an issue, the DT are the first to pick it up. And then we mention it to Lisa and she will address the issue. So from my point of view, I can't say I've ever had an issue with this embossing folder, but people obviously are, so I thought I would emboss it today. You can see I've already stenciled it, and I've got to tell you, this was the quickest ever stenciling that I've ever done. I think it took me about 3.5 minutes, and I thought I'm just going to do it all in one colour, so it's all in anthracite. Different pressures give you different shades of the same colour, but actually I'm really quite pleased with it. I think it looks quite good, and I honestly didn't take any care at all. I just wanted an embossed image to, sorry, a stenciled image to be able to emboss it for you today. So, you know, just goes to show that you don't have to spend hours and hours. Yes, I'm sorry, Carol, it is inches. I'm an inches girl, I'm afraid. And when you see how many pieces there are, it would take me far too long to go through and put centimetres. So I do apologise, but yes, it will 99% of the time will always be inches. The only time I ever do centimetres is if there are lots and lots of fiddly measurements by using inches, and that's the only time. So I'm sorry. Right, so I've stenciled the floral heart and I'm going to emboss it for you. Now, if I'm going to try and bring it up, and I'm hoping that it stays in focus. I'm sorry about the light, but as I say, there really isn't anything I can do about it. So the way I do it, and I know it's the way that most of the DT do it, I know it's certainly the way that Lisa does it, is I find a point on the embossing folder and I fit the whole of that piece in. Okay, so you can see here, if I bring it up a little closer, I hope it doesn't go out of focus. You can see there that that is in the perfect position. Okay, there isn't anything not lined up. It's all absolutely spot on. All right, and then what I do is I keep my finger on this, and I move the rest of this piece around until I'm happy with where it is. Okay, and for me, I can see that I'm happy with where everything is. All right, so I'm going to run this through, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this slightly, because what happens is you're putting paper into this stencil, which is a really heavyweight, durable plastic. And because card and plastic together create static, sometimes your image is going to move. All right, so I'm going to move this slightly as if it's moved in the folder, and then I'm going to show you how to put it right. So bear with while I just run it through. Just chuck my glue on the floor. Okay, so if I lift this out of here, you might be able to see that it isn't properly lined up. So you can see here the branch here should be over here. And that's obviously because it's moved in the folder. All right. Please don't look at this and then go, well, I've spoilt that now, I'll chuck that away. Please don't, because you don't need to. Put it back in the embossing folder and line it up again. Now, obviously, you're going to have embossed pieces on the piece of card that you're putting back in this folder, and it's going to want to sit back in those lines. Do you know what I mean? So these pieces that are raised here are going to want to sit back in the same piece on here where it's embossed. So you need to be a little bit sort of light-handed and put your image where you want it to emboss, okay? And then run it through again. Ignore the fact that it wants to sit where it wants to sit. You put it where you want it, okay? So for me, I'm looking at this flower here. This is lined up. I'm looking at these leaves up here. These are lined up. I'm looking at the heart all the way round. That's lined up. And for me, I think that's okay. So when I go to put it through my machine, I hold onto it on one side, fasten the folder on the other, grip the folder both sides, and then put it through my machine. Okay, so as you put it down, keep your hand on the top so that the paper inside doesn't move, and just be a little bit slower with putting it into your embossing machine. Okay, that way you will encourage it to stay in one position. And if I lift it out now, you can see that this is lined up, this is lined up, the heart is lined up, the little leaves down here are lined up, okay? And I think, from my point of view, that's pretty perfect. It's all about taking your time and not panicking, because with the best will in the world, you know, we all rush a little bit sometimes, and sometimes it really doesn't save you any time. In fact, it probably puts you behind, because taking that few extra seconds when you start off is just going to save you loads of time later, because like I've embossed that twice now. Obviously, you're not going to be able to keep putting it back in time after time after time, because the paper will wear, and you're going to get to the point where it's going to be so flimsy that you're not going to be able to do anything with it. But a couple, 3 times, probably 4, you can realign it and run it through again. So please don't look at it the first time you take it out of the folder and say, no, that's not right, I've scrapped that, it's no good, because it honestly, it is savable, it really is. And I can't really say anything else. You've watched me do this live, okay? If it wasn't going to line up because there was a fault with the folder or a fault with the stenciling or whatever, I couldn't do it live, could I? But I did. And for me, that's perfect. So please persevere, don't give up. It does work, I promise. It's just a case of taking your time and just be careful. If you need to, when you put this in the folder, if you need to, when you've put it in like this and you've lined it all up, before you run it through, just put a couple of pieces of tape on the back of your image that sticks it to your folder. And at least that way, it's not going to move through static, okay? But just take your time and please persevere. It will work, honestly. Right, let's move on. So today we're making a triple easel card. Let me show you the one that I made. And they're quite difficult to show on camera because of the very nature of them. But I do think they're really pretty. So if I show you the side view, that's what it looks like when it's standing up. So each easel is its own stopper, if you like, and then I've got a little stopper on the front. Okay, so if I lift it up a little bit, so that you can see the detail. Okay, and make sure when you're doing your folding and your creasing and you're burnishing your fold lines, make sure you do them really, really well, because that's what's going to help this stand up the way it should. Okay, so hi Andrea, let's get a start. Now I've made a larger version today, all right? So if I just put up here, first off, if we go with, I think it's that one, right, this is everything that I've used to make this card. Okay, so I'm just going to put this to one side and I will run through everything that's on that display there. Okay, so I've used these 2 stamps. These have been out for ages. I really don't know whether there are any in stock. I haven't checked any stock levels. Had a bit of a nightmare with my display pieces, and I hadn't got a transparent background on it and it wouldn't work. Anyway, another story. So these were really early on stamps, and they are just such a fabulous addition to your stash. And I know a lot of you that have been with Lisa for some time will have these, this one and the music score. Okay, and that was really to make my own designer paper, if you like, because I hadn't got one that I liked enough to use on this card. So I've used this stamp and this stamp to make my designer paper equivalent. Okay, so that's that. Obviously I'm using the Daisy Corner, the embossing folder and the die, and I'm using the stencils. All right, I'm also using the butterflies and the beautiful butterflies stencils, just for one little addition to the bottom of the card. For my sentiment, I've used the sentiments from this Frame It Stamp and Die set. It's a lovely set. It's so useful, and I'd forget so many times what brilliant little sentiments there are here. They're such a fabulous size. They're perfect for a smaller sentiment. So like the hugs and kisses here, this is from this set. Okay, and I've used another of the sentiments in here on today's card, but because today's card's a little bit bigger, then the sentiment's a little bit bigger. Okay, I've also used the nested torn edge circles, and I've used these because I couldn't get 2 circles the right size for the size of the card that I'm using, and that will become obvious when we go through making the card. But they are nice, but don't forget that there is a proper way to line them up, okay, because obviously they're nesting dies, and that's the way they've been made, so they do line up. You just have to be a little bit more careful when you're lining them up. And for the sentiment on this smaller one, I use these, the scalloped alpha dots. Again, something I forget that I've got in my stash, because I've got so much that it's difficult to keep track of what I have got, what I haven't got, and what I've used and what I haven't used. So I've used those as well. I'm not using those on today's card. So if I get rid of that, and if I put the measurements up for, is that the one? No, not that one, that one. These are the measurements for the small card, okay? I'm not going to read them out to you. I'm going to leave that on the screen while I do my stenciling, okay? So I'm going to stencil the daisy corner while you're writing those down. And then when I've finished stenciling, I will put up the details for the larger one that I'm actually making today. Okay, so you've got time to write those down while I'm doing this stenciling, okay? Anybody would think I'd planned all this, wouldn't they? You wouldn't have thought so, looking at my craft room at about 11:30. Right, so I'm going in with Woodland Moss here, because I like the colour, but I'm going in sort of really quite light because I want these colours to be really quite subtle, okay? So I'm going in light with this Woodland Moss. I can always go in and add a little bit more if I want to, but I want to start really quite light at the beginning because I don't want any of these colours to be really, really dark, which is going to be difficult when you look at the colours that I'm using. And again, I will put the colours up in a little while. So when you've finished writing everything down, just would you be able to use this? Yeah. Are you asking me to make it, Katie? But yes, of course you could. That's a line the cozy cottage. Yeah. See, this is what I mean, Colleen. If you re-emboss, 99% of the time you will correct any errors that have occurred when you first emboss it. So please just don't give up on it. It's not worth giving up on. Okay, so I've put my Woodland Moss down here, and before I take this off, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a little bit of the Dusky Rose into the edges of those leaves, just to give it something a little bit different. And again, really quite light. You'll hardly be able to see it on what I'm doing now, but when I take the stencil away, hopefully you will be able to see it a little bit more obviously. Hi, Diney. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Is it Dutch? I don't understand. I can't read Dutch and I don't understand it, so I'm sorry, I can't answer whatever you're putting up there. Okay, so I'm bringing this Dusky Rose into the edges of these leaves. Hi, Linda. As I say, Margaret, I'm not sure whether any of these are in stock or anything like that. So, yes, Katie, it would. I mean, I could, but you'd have to pay me. Yeah, well, I think sometimes, Bonnie, it's nice to go back and look at some of the older stuff, because obviously Lisa's audience is growing all the time, isn't it? And we've got so many new people that have come in sort of halfway through Lisa's journey that those people won't have seen these products. And I always think it's nice to remind other people what you've got in your stash. So you can see there that I've got a nice little pink hue on those green leaves, and I really like how that looks. So for my little stems here, I'm going in with tree bark. Didn't reach a brush out for that. I am using a stencil brush, but I am going to take quite a bit of the ink off my brush before I go in on the stencil. And then I can just pick up the ink that's on my stencil and just brush it through those tiny little apertures. As I say, I want these colours to be really quite subtle, so I don't want to go in with loads of colour and ruin the rest of the image. Now, I have already stenciled and die cut and sorted my pieces out for today's card, because there's quite a bit to it. I didn't want to be going through the actual die cutting with you, but I thought I would stencil it just to show you sort of a little bit of different colours, if you like. No problem, Linda. And I think, excuse me, got a real tickle. I think what Claire said last week was a really good idea. I'm just going to have a drink of water, excuse me. It was a really good idea that on the weeks that we do 2 lives, we're going to do the same product and use it in 2 different ways. So if you've got product that you particularly like and that you're unsure about using, and you'd like to see a live using said product, then please just put a post in the group, and we can pick up on that between us. I mean, I've got pretty much most of what Lisa's ever bought out, but I know that there will be items that I haven't got or that Claire hasn't got, so hopefully if one hasn't, the other one will. So I'm going in here with Dusky Rose, and again I'm using the Wonder Brush because I want a really soft coverage on here. I do love the stencil brushes, but I think sometimes you can sort of get a little bit carried away and go a little bit too heavy, whereas with the Wonder Brushes I think you get a really nice soft coverage. Now I'm using Lisa's extra smooth white card because I like it, and because all my others are done in extra smooth white card and I didn't want to change it for this one. So rows of bows. Okay, drop me a message, Katie, and just remind me, because by the time I've finished all this I'll have forgotten what you've said. Right, so you can see there that I didn't go all the way to the middle on that. Because I'm using really subtle colours, I don't want to go all the way across the middle of this flower, okay? And hopefully you'll be able to see why in a sec. So here, I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to use the Juicy Pineapple. Have you all written those measurements down? Can I put the colours up? It's a lovely stamp, Katie. Thank you. To use the BG. I do, Donna. Not very often, but I do still use them, yes. I suppose it's laziness on my part, really. My Wonder Brushes and my stencil brushes are closer to me than my bijou brushes. They're easier to get to, so I'm probably being just lazy. But then again, they give a really nice soft coverage on your blending. So again, they're worth using if you want really soft blending, soft colours. So I'm using Juicy Pineapple here. I know I've said before that for me Pina Colada is a softer yellow, but I actually wanted the brightness of the Juicy Pineapple, although I am using it quite subtly. Okay, So there's the depth of colour in the Juicy Pineapple, but I am still using soft lay down of colour. So I'm just going in here just with a small tiny bit of that Juicy Pineapple, because most of that is going to have a darker colour on it. Okay, so around the edges here I'm going to go in with Loganberry. Okay, so if I take, how far have I got to go? If I take those measurements off, I can put them back if you ask in a bit, but if I take those measurements off and just quickly put the colours, is it that one? Yeah, those are the colours that I've used. Okay, and I've put two different colour blocks there. The ones that I've used on the small easel card, I've only used 3 colours, and then today's colours are underneath. Okay, just in case you wanted to write those down as well. So as I say, I'm going in with Loganberry. Again, reasonably soft, but what I want to do is come in from the edge and blend into that yellow, so that it's sort of an ombre type colouring, but again, still not overly deep in colour. Okay, if you want to add a little bit more afterwards, of course you can do. They're your colours. Now, because I've got a small area here and then a crossover of petals over here, I am just going to go in with my stencil brush, take most of that colour off, and I'm just going to go round in circles on that one and then across here, just so that I get a little bit of a blend across those middle petals. Okay, if you want to use a stencil brush for all of this, you can do. Just bear in mind that Loganberry is a really deep colour, and if you want subtle, you need to be really quite careful with it. Okay, so that's stencil number 4. See, I really like that. Now we're going to stencil number 5, and again, these are more leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my woodland moss, and again, really quite light, because I don't want anything to sort of jump out and be more obvious than anything else. Do you know what I mean? So I'm coming in here with the woodland moss. As I say, again, really quite subtle. And you see there's a leaf here in the middle of that flower. I would just go a little bit heavier with that, because it's sort of sitting behind flower petals, and you don't want it to look as though it's sort of odd. So I would just go a little bit deeper, but don't need a whole, don't need to go really, really deep. And here, there's sort of like a little branch. Did I put my branch in? I did, yeah. There's another little piece of branch here, which I'm going to go over in tree bark. I'm going to go a little bit deeper in those there, because they're sort of the casings on the buds on those other flowers. I'm just going to go in with a little bit of tree bark down here, just to make that stand out. Okay, I like that. So now we're coming into the middle, and again I'm going to go in with my Juicy Pineapple. I'm going to take a lot of the ink off, because I want the yellow, but I don't want it overly saturated with colour. Just going back, can't see the chat. There we go. Hi Beverly. They are nice brushes, Donna, and I really like using them. I just, as I say, I'm probably just being lazy. Okay, so we're on to the last 2 stencils. So I'm going to go in here with that Loganberry, just to pick out the those little sort of seed heads. But again, take quite a bit off. But obviously I need to go reasonably deep to go through those tiny little apertures. And I want it to show up on top of that yellow. as a really sort of definite colour. Yes, love it, love it, love it. Now on here I'm going to use the Dusky Rose. I did toy with the idea of Loganberry, but I thought it would probably be too dark. So I'm going to go in with the Dusky Rose, just to put a different colour on the veins on the leaves. Because we all know leaves aren't just green, don't we? So I think adding a different colour, I mean, you could use a grey. Grey would look nice. You use any colour you like, really. It just depends what sort of look you're after. But because I've used the Dusky Rose on the leaves at the beginning, I think it just sort of adds and lifts those leaf colours. Okay, what I'm actually going to do on those bigger leaves, I actually didn't go in with that Dusky Rose, which I had done. And I'm just going to lift that colour a little bit on those other leaves, just so as they match everything else that I've done. And I'm not using this piece today, but I will use it on another project. I might use it on Thursday. Okay, that'll do. Put those to one side. Now I can put all the lids on my inks. But if I'll just show you that. Can you see that? How subtle those colours are. And yet I've used really, really deep colours. But if you are careful with your pressure, then obviously you're going to be able to have lots of different shades of the same colour. Hence that floral heart is just one colour, but obviously different pressures with the anthracite, which makes it look like you've got several different, you've used several different inks, which of course you haven't. So if I just put all my lids on these, get rid of these brushes, because I don't want any ink in the way. And then I can change the slide from colours to the measurements for the larger one. So I'm going to move this out of the way because I don't need it. And I am just going to bring my magnetic mat in because I'm going to use that in a second. But then obviously you would cut that out. And on today's card, I've only cut out elements from this. So although I've stenciled it all, I'm only going to use little bits of it. Now I know that sounds a little bit like sacrilege after you've spent all that time stenciling it and making it look really beautiful. But if you keep the extra little bits, you can use them on another project. And again, I'm going to incorporate those on Thursday's project. Okay, don't know how yet, but I am going to use them, and I will use this as well. All right. So let's go through the measurements for the base card for today's card. Okay, using different colours, obviously, because the colours I've used on here are sort of turquoise based. And when I looked at this yesterday, what I should have done with this one was put this so that it was hanging down, so that you could actually see the rose when it stood up. The daisy when it stood up, because I can't at the moment. So although you can see it on camera there, when you lift it up, ignore the fact that the back piece is moving. When I lift it up and somebody's looking at that on their shelf, then they can't see the flower. So I should have put that in a different position. So bear that in mind when you're using parts of a stenciled piece. Right, so let's swap out those colours for the large measurements. Okay, so your base card is 10 by 5. Okay, you need 3 pieces for the base of your card. So this is making all your easels. Okay, so your first one is 10 by 5. Your second one is 8 by 4. And your third one is 6 by 3. So the length comes down 2 inches each time, and the width comes down 1 inch each time. Okay, but it's always half of your length. Okay, and then you're going to score them all. So your main piece, you're going to score at 2.5 and 5. So in half and in half again. Okay, and that's the same for all of them, in half and in half again. So on the 8x4 piece, it's 2 inches and 4 inches, and on the small piece, it's 1.5 and 3. Okay, I'll probably put them. Did you want the measurements for the small card, Janet, or the one that I'm doing now? Just let me know. What weight is the card? This is American Crafts cardstock, so it's let me just check, 216 GSM, and although it looks quite flimsy, when you've put everything together and you've got all the layers on it, it's actually quite sturdy. It's not gonna go anywhere. Okay, so I use the texture card quite often for my bases. Okay, all of them if possible. Yeah. So if I leave these large ones up while I just go through all the pieces, and then while I'm putting this together, I'll put the small ones back. Is that okay? So, as I say, score in half and in half again on all 3 of those pieces. Okay, then you're also going to need one piece that measures 5x5, one piece that measures 4x4, and one piece that measures 3x3. And these pieces are going to form your panels on your easel. Okay, so let's put the panels onto the card, or shall we do that afterwards? Which way around did I do it? I matted and layered everything first, so let's go through the other pieces. Now, you remember I said I used the those 2 stamps, those 2 large stamps. I've made my own sort of DSP, if you like. So I've got a piece here that measures 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. No, it's not. It's 4.5 by 4.5. Okay, so there's 2 pieces like that, but I've stamped them differently. Okay, and you'll see why there's 2 different ones in a minute. And then you've got another piece for the smaller square, and that's 3.5 by 3.5, and then this one's 2.5 by 2.5. Okay, and in the middle of those you've got white pieces. So you've got 2 pieces of white, which are 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. Okay, so one for that and one for the base. You've got 2 pieces which are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and 2 pieces which are 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Okay, now when I put this together, the mat and layers are quite obvious, shall I say? If I show you this, if I just lay it all down and just show you this one, they're quite, for me, they're quite wide. I prefer a much narrower mat and layer, but I was following a video by a lady called Jambi. I think she's a Stampin' Up demonstrator, but she does some cracking demos. And those were the measurements that she used. After I'd put it together, I did think about making the mat and layers tighter so that they were narrower. But when I looked at it as an overall thing, when I'd finished, I actually think the larger ones make it look nicer. I think it might lose something if you made them smaller. But if you wanted to, just make these bigger by 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so just take everything up. Where I've got 4 3/4, make it 4 7/8. Okay, and then your mat and layers will be smaller. So let's put all these together. I was going to have all these done, but then I thought, no, let's do it properly. Let's put it all together. So because I've got two different stamped pieces, you've just got to then decide which piece you want where. So I'm going to use the same as I did on my original, and I'm going to put the music score on the piece that's standing up, and I'm going to put the checked cloth on the piece that's on the base. Okay, so let's do the panels that are going on the stand-up bits first. So I'll put my piece of white card in, and I'm using Lisa's Fabulous Glue, because you really don't need much at all. So I'm going to pop that in there like so. You do have a little bit of wiggle room with this glue, but not much. Okay, so that's that one. And then this piece is going on the top here. And when I use those stamps to stamp this card up, they're not wide enough to do the whole piece in one go. So all you've got to do is just line your stamp up with the edge of where your stamping comes to. And you won't, I mean, you can't see where I've joined it here, I don't think. I mean, I've joined two lots of stamping here, and I don't think you can see where I've joined it. It might be more obvious on the checked cloth piece, but I really don't think it's going to show up that much once it's in the middle of a card. Okay, so that's my main piece. And we're going to come to the next piece down, put my white piece in. And again, this is Lisa's extra smooth white card. I probably wouldn't use it for this sort of thing as a rule, but I hadn't got any other white card that is sort of plain and smooth. I didn't want to use textured card. I just wanted to use plain card. So just add my music piece down here. And then pop that down there like so. So that's the second piece. See, it's pretty quick. Once it all starts coming together, it's pretty quick. Cutting the pieces of card is going to take you more time than anything else. Okay. It's quite therapeutic doing stuff like this, I think. Yes, Donna, it is. It's called Checkered Cloth. And again, like I say, I'm not sure whether she still has any, because it was one that came out right at the beginning of her journey. So we're sort of going back to 2020. I know she's brought back some of the earlier stamps, but I'm not sure whether this was one of them. So now I'm just going to add my other pieces, my checkered cloth stamped pieces, onto the white card, because obviously my brown card is the base of the easel. So I'm just going to work out, I'm going to put that line where I've joined the two stamps together at the bottom, because you won't see it then, because of the mechanism of the card. But obviously the smaller pieces fitted the stamp, so I didn't need to worry about those. And that was the beauty of doing the smaller one, was those pieces fitted the stamp perfectly, and I didn't have to worry about joining any together. But it's not difficult, a little bit time consuming, but I think it's worth the effort. So last piece, and then we can start and put the card together. And putting it together is really easy. I think this larger one should fit in a 5x7 envelope, if I've worked it out right. I think the smaller one will go in, will probably also go in a 5x7. Let me measure it. Oh, so that's 4 across, but when it's all folded down like so, it is just, well, 5 1/4 inches. So it's 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I would think Bonnie isn't that perfect for your sizes in the US. I think that was why she did it at that size, if I'm honest. So let's put these pieces onto our base card. Now remember when I said when you're burnishing, make sure you burnish really, really well. If you think you've burnished it well, go back and burnish it again. Hi Kathy. Hi Susan, no worries. So just before you start and put it all together, just re-burnish those crease lines, because that's what's going to help your card to stand up as an easel. Okay, so we'll do the first one like so. Why does that not fit? Yes, it does. Might have to trim that down a bit, but let's put it on and then see. So this is going on the base. So this is going to be the base of your easel card. So if you were worried about any join on your stamping, then you won't need to, because once you've put everything down on here. What am I doing? What am I doing? Idiot. That's why it didn't fit, because this goes here. Stupid girl. Got glue on my card now. I bet you're all sitting there going, not those, Dawn, not those. Can you shout louder next time, please? Because I didn't hear you. Okay. It won't matter, because what I will do is use my residue eraser on there afterwards when it's all dry, and you won't see that. Okay, so that's the first one. What twit. And then I'm going to put the second one down, and then we can start and put it all together before we put our decoration on. That one's going on there, like so, and then the bigger one on the bottom. Okay, when I've done this, I'll just swap those measurements out for the smaller measurements. Okay, so there you've got the main pieces of your easel card ready to put together. Okay, so let me just swap these measurements out for the smaller ones, and then which one is it? I think it's that one. That one. There you go. Right. When you're... Shall I put the things on first? What did I do last time? Yes. Now you need to glue your panels to your easels. Okay, and the easiest way to do this, for me, is to open it out, line up your top panel with the base piece, and line it up like that. Add your glue to this piece here. You only want it on this half, because if you put it here, it's not going to stand up, is it? So I'm going to put my glue on here. Saves you messing around worrying about getting glue in the right places on your panel piece. Okay, so decide which way up you're going to have your music. Have it that way, and then line these up. Make sure you're straight all the way up your card, and line it up Just give it a couple of seconds to take properly. It won't take long with this glue it's made. So have you made 2 corners? Yes, Janet, I have. I've made a smaller one, which was the green one, which I did yesterday. And this is the larger one because I wanted to make it a little bit bigger for today, because of when I'd done yesterday's, I didn't use enough of the daisy image for what I wanted to see. So I went and made a larger card. Does that make sense? So next panel, going down here, add my glue down here. See, this bit's easy. When you put it all together, the only bit that might be a little bit more confusing is where you place your pieces. But again, it's easy. If it wasn't easy, I wouldn't be showing you, especially not on a live. Can you hear? Yes, Linda, you can. Yes, I've got my windows open in my craft room, and we do have a lot of birds in the garden because Graham feeds them all the time. And we spend more money on bird food than we do on our food. But you know, it keeps him busy, it keeps him quiet. Now I'm going to have to just take some of this off here, because obviously I've got glue where I don't want glue, and I don't want it to stick down. I will spend more time on that afterwards. So I'm going to pop this down here, put my glue on my card, and then we can start and put it together. And hopefully this front panel won't stick to anything it shouldn't. I'll pop that down there, line that up, make sure it's level all the way up the card. Okay, so you've got your 3 pieces here ready to put together. Okay, now then, I think what we'll do is we will decorate these panels before we put the card together, because then we can put our stopper on this bottom panel when everything else is together. Okay, so as I said, I stenciled the daisy corner in the same colours, and I cut it out and embossed it and everything else. And I've also used one of the beautiful butterflies because I didn't want to use the same flower on the front piece. I just wanted something a little bit different. So I've stenciled this, I've die cut the piece completely, and then I've just chosen which part to cut out. Okay, and you can see that I cut it out with the same die, the nested torn circles, and then I've just lined them up. So this piece sits proud of this piece. And as I said, there is a correct way to line these up. Although, if you're really in a rush, I really don't think anybody's going to sit and go, well, they don't match. Because they're just torn edges, and that, you know, they're meant to look different. So I won't worry too much about it, but I particularly wanted to line it up so that they all matched. Okay, so this one is going on the top here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put it slightly on a slant, because normally I would have put it like that. But I don't think you can see enough of the flower, so I'm actually going to put it on a slant like so. Okay, I'm putting all this flat because obviously with having 3 easels, it's going to sit, it's going to be quite bulky anyway, and I don't want, if I used 3D pads on everything, then it's going to make it really, really bulky. And I don't really want that. So I'm going to place that in the middle, like so. Do the same with this one. And again, I'm going to turn that round slightly. Because you can't see the whole daisy corner image, I don't think it matters which way up you put these flowers. I really think it's, you know, artistic license, let's call it. Put it how you want to. Put it how it's going to look best when you stand this up. Okay, so that's that one. And then the little butterfly is going on the front. Now obviously this is the front of the card, so this can go slap bang in the middle. You can either put it on an angle, put it straight, whichever you want. I think mine's going on a slight angle because I just think it looks nicer. Looks a bit more quirky. But again, I've used exactly the same colours, Loganberry, Dusky Rose and that Juicy Pineapple on the butterfly so that everything ties in together. Okay, right, so now we need to put it together so that it stands up beautifully. Okay, so when you come to stand it up, when you need to come to put it together rather, you need to line this up here on your magnetic mat so that it sits nicely against that central line. Okay, I'm going to use my magnets to hold this down so as it doesn't move, and then I'm going to line this up so that it sits, and I think I worked it out at 1.5 proud of the card underneath. Okay, so I'm coming out here, can you see these markings here? There's 1 full square and a half square, so I'm coming out 1.5, and what I'm actually going down is just under 1.5 squares. But if I'm doing it by eye, you can sort of see that you're in the middle there. So what you're trying to get is the distance here. Okay, so how did I do it? See, I made a pencil mark on the other one because I could, because it was white pale card, and now I've used dark card and I can't, but never mind, let's go for it anyway. So turn it over, line it up, work out where you want your easel to sit and make a pencil mark here. And really that is just so that you don't go too far with your glue, because you don't want it on this open edge here. So all you want is sitting glue all the way down to there and then place it down on your card. So your magnetic mat or your silicone mat, anything that's got grid lines on it is going to work perfectly. Okay, so 1.5 out and 1 and a bit in the middle, and I would open it out and press it down on the inside like so. Okay, and then you're going to do exactly the same with the next piece, and you're going to line it up against that central line. All you need to do is just line it up on a solid line. So if you're using your silicone mat, I'd use the dark line that goes across the middle to line it up with, and then just make sure that you've got the same amount here as you've got here, which I think we more or less have, and then do exactly the same again with this piece. Okay, so face down, line it up 1.5 out, and it's just going to be just less than 1 down, and providing you sort of work it out like that, you're going to get it in the right place every time. So just put my glue down to the line, and be a little bit more generous in the middle there with your glue, because you don't want it to fall off. So that's round about the middle. Open it out, make sure it's straight, and then just press that down like so, so that when you then stand it up, it all stands beautifully. So all I've got to do now is put my little stopper across here. Okay, and for that I've just cut 3 pieces of the same brown card, the same width as this small panel at the bottom. Okay, so that's 3 inches wide. So these pieces are 3 inches long. They are, going to break my own rule here, 1.5 centimetres wide. And then this, where I've stamped the sentiment, is just under 3 inches and it's 1 centimetre wide. And then I've stamped the sentiment onto that piece of white card, and I have used 3D pads. And the only reason I've used the 3D pads is because it's the stopper and I need it to be standing proud of the card. So although I've used 3 pieces of brown card together, for me it wasn't quite deep enough to give me enough of a stopper. So I'm just going to stand these up, and then that will help me decide where I want the stopper. So about there, I think. Like so. Make sure it's straight. And then that's my stopper for the front panel. And then each easel will be the stopper for the panel behind. So can you see that because I've moved the flowers, you can actually see more of the flowers when the card is standing up, and I like that. And nobody's going to know that, you know, the daisy corner isn't facing that way, are they? Because they don't know what it's come from. It's just a really pretty card that uses some flowers on it. Nobody's going to know how you've done it. But I think it's a really pretty way of sending some hugs, kisses, birthday wishes, whatever you want it to be, to somebody special. So there you go. Today's triple easel card. So I hope you enjoyed that. Excuse me. I just could get rid of this tickle. Does anybody want a reminder of the colours? You're welcome, Donna. You're welcome. Yeah. Broke my own rule there, Carol. Thank you, Linda. So if I just take those measurements out and just give you a reminder of the colours, I think it's that one. Oh, yeah, that one. So those are a reminder of the colours that I've used on each card. So the small easel is the pina colada, the rustic coral and the natural turquoise. And the larger one is the tree bark, the woodland moss, the juicy pineapple, dusky rose and loganberry. And I think both of them, I think this is my favourite. I was going to do the inking with the tree bark, and at the last minute I changed my mind and went for loganberry, and I'm so glad I did, because I just think it looks really fabulous. And I think if I'd have done it brown it might have been too dull. So just try and lift it up slightly so that you can see it. Pretty, isn't it? So there you go. So don't forget to join Claire tomorrow at 2. Not sure what she's doing yet. I shall be back on Thursday, again using the daisy corner, but in a completely different way. And I will also try and incorporate the bits that were left. So these are the bits that were left after I cut my circles out. And I'm going to incorporate these into Thursday's demo and the one that I've done today. So this one as well that I've done today. I will incorporate them all into Thursday's demo. Okay, so I hope you can join me on Thursday at 1 for something different. So have a fabulous week. I won't be able to watch Claire tomorrow, I'm busy. So enjoy whatever Claire does, and I'll catch up with you on Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. So I'll see you soon, everybody. Take care now. Bye.